Good evening, everyone from Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. This is the Wednesday night Caitanya-caritāmṛta reading and discussion. And before we begin the reading of the text and purports by Srila Prabhupada, we've been reading on about the diary that he wrote in regards to his service in New York City in 1966. We're currently at that date. We read the first March 1st insert. And it was interesting to note that Prabhupada had his typewriter stolen. So you can imagine how disappointing it was for him to do that, to have that experience. But it did not seem to deter him. And this was a very unfortunate situation for him and for the whole world. So, sometimes we have setbacks in life for a variety of reasons, and they could be very discouraging. But nonetheless, for the sake of the mission of Srila Prabhupada and for the sake of the assembly, for the devotees that are currently working with us in this online environment, we encourage you to keep going despite all difficulties, just as Prabhupada had that traumatic experience back then. So we'll go to the letter. We read the March highlights, the first section, and I sent over the letter. And it's an interesting letter. I had a chance to review it. Again, more difficult news for Srila Prabhupada in terms of his book distribution. So it was not easy for him. The Universal Book House, Sita Sadan, Tulsi Pipe Road, Dadar, Bombay, 28, India. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, 100 West 72nd Street, room 307, New York, New York. And this was February 26th that it was mailed, 1966. Much different than what we have these days, where there's instant communication. It's like, and anybody can set up a cottage. I was speaking to my godbrother Yaśodā, and it's very interesting to note that anybody can set up a cottage industry online. They just launch a site, they can launch a Facebook page, and all of a sudden they've got an audience, and there they are, the Mr. Cottage Industry. Very interesting. And then all the gossip, all the nonsense goes on, which is constantly bombarding everyone if you're in that medium. Dear Swamiji, I was happy to receive your letter of 16/2/66, and especially to learn that you are endeavoring to establish a temple of Sri Hare Krishna in New York. May God bless your efforts so that you may be instrumental to fulfill this unique project. I cannot give you very happy news of the progress of the sale of Srimad Bhagavatam. One thing, because the subject is religious, and a small sector of the society may personally be interested in the books. The question mainly is of the pocket is of the pocket. Besides, other line of the business is such that we rarely come in contact with colleges and universities. We tried to push them through some booksellers to Nagpur, Ahmedabad, Pune, etc., but regret to inform you that after some time, these booksellers return the books for want of response as such. We are not only unenthusiastic to agree to your proposal of taking up sales for all of India, but we were just thinking of requesting you to nominate some other people in our place to represent your sales program in Maharashtra. Totally rejected Srimad Bhagavatam and his work. We have so far sold off 6 sets of your books. The sale proceeds will be rupees 172.80 pence. Or what is it in India? Yasoda, rupees and paisa. That's right, paisa. Mm-hmm. I've been away from India since 1985. So we have so far sold off the 6 sets. We shall shortly deposit the amount in your saving bank account with the Bank of Baroda Limited. Wishing you all success in your enterprises with love and respect. I remain truly A.P. Dorkar. And you see the letter format there, a very interesting episode and a rather discouraging letter. But was Prabhupada discouraged? No, he just kept going. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. We'll have the Jaya Radha Madhava prayers sung by Srila Prabhupada, and then this reading and discussion with His Grace Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Haribol.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Yaśodā-nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yaśodā-nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Jamuna Tira Banachari. Jamuna Tira Banachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yaśodā-nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yaśodā-nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Jamuna Tira Banachari. Jamuna Tira Banachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Jaya Muspa Paramahansa Parivrajaga-ācārya Sattva Samaja Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupāda ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava ki Jai Nāma-ācārya Sri Haridas Thakur ki Jai Prem se Kaho Sri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Mokh Gopinath Sam Khanda Radha Khanda Giridhar ki Jai Vrindavan Dham ki Jai Navadvip Dham ki Jai Ganga Mai ki Jai, Jamuna Mai ki Jai, New Dwarka Dham ki Jai, Swami Bhaktivedanta ki Jai, all glories to their Summit. All glories to their Summit. Thank you very much.
All glories to you, Srila Prabhupada. Glories to you, Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam. Narayanam Namaskritya. Naram Cheva Narottamam. Naram Cheva Narottamam. Devim Saraswatim Vyasam. Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayat Tato Jayam Mudirayat. Before we begin in the reading, we'll be reading a few verses from the Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta Adi Lila, chapter 1, takes 18 through 22. Jai Jai Sri Caitanya Jai Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Glory to Sri Caitanya and Nityananda, Dvaita Chandra, and glory to all the devotees of Sri Gaura, Lord Chaitanya. Text 19. 18 Thakur Gaudiya ke karye cheno yatmosat. 18 Ero Charana Vandan Tirimorinat. These three deities of Vrindavana, Madan Mohan, Govinda, and Gopinatha, have absorbed the heart and soul of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, followers of Lord Chaitanya. I worship their lotus feet, for they are the lords of my heart. Text 20. Grante Rarambikari Mangala Charana Guru Vaishnav Bhagavan Tinera Smarana. In the beginning of this narration, simply by remembering the spiritual master, the devotees of the Lord, and the personality of Godhead, I have invoked their benedictions. Text 21. Tinera Smaraneyai Vigna Vinashana Anayaseoi Nijavanchita Purana. Such remembrance destroys all difficulties and very easily enables one to fulfill his own desires. Simangala Charanoi Trivida Prakar Vastu Nirdesha Shiravada Namaskaram. The invocation involved three processes: defining the objective, offering benedictions, and offering obeisances. So welcome everyone to this reading of Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta. We are reading from the original non-adulterated, unrevised 1974 version. Today we'll be reading from Adi Lila, chapter 3, text 26. We will read a few verses and then we will have a discussion. Text 26. Yuga dharma pravartana ayam sahoete amavinanye nahe vraja prema dite. Yuga dharma of the religion of the age. Pravartana, the inauguration. I is. Amsha, the plenary portion. Oite, from. Ama, for me. Vina, except. Anye, another. Nare, is not able. Vraja prema, love like that of the residents of Vraja. Dite, to bestow. Translation. My plenary portions can establish the principles of religion for each age. No one but me, however, can bestow the kind of loving service performed by the residents of Vraja. Text 27. Shantvavatara bhavaha pankajana bhasya sarvatu badraha Krishna danyaha kovalatasu api premado bhavati. Santu, let there be. Avataraha, incarnations. Bhavaha, many. Pankajana bhasya, of the Lord, from whose navel grows a lotus flower. Saravata Bhadraha, completely auspicious. Krishnat, then Lord Krishna. Anyaha, other. Kahava, who possibly. Latasu, on the surrendered souls. Api, also. Premadaha, the bestower of love. Bhavati, is. Translation. There may be many all-auspicious incarnations of the personality of Godhead, but who other than Lord Sri Krishna can bestow love of God upon the surrendered souls? Purport. This quotation, Sambhiva Mangala Thakur, is found in the Lagu Bhagavatamrita 1.537. Text 28. Tahate apana bhaktagan kari sange pritibite avatari kari munanorange. Tahati, in that. Apana, my own. Bhaktagana, with devotees. Kari, doing. Sange, in association. Pritivite, on the earth. Avatari, descending. Karimu, I shall perform. Nana, various. Range, colorful pastimes. Translation. Therefore, in the company of my devotees, I shall appear on earth and perform various colorful pastimes. Text 29. Ita bhavi kali kale pratama sandhyaya avatirno elo Krishna pani nadiyaya. Eta, thus, bhavi, thinking, kali kale, in the age of Kali, pratama, first, sandhyaya, in the junction, avatirna hoela, descended, Krishna, Lord Krishna, apani, himself, nadiyaya, in Nadia. Translation. Thinking thus, the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna himself, descended at Nadia early in the age of Kali. Purport. Pratama Sandhya is the beginning of the age. According to astronomical calculation, the age is divided into 12 parts. The first of these 12 divisions is known as the Pratama Sandhya. Pratama Sandhya and Shesha Sandhya, the last division of the preceding age, form the junction of the two ages. According to the Surya Siddhanta, the Pratama Sandhya of the Kali Yuga lasts 36,000 solar years. Lord Chaitanya appeared in the Pratama Sandhya after 4,586 solar years of Kali Yuga had passed. Text 30. Chaitanya Simhera Navadvipi Avatar Simhagriva Simhavirya Simhera Humkar Chaitanya Simhera of the lion-like Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Navadvipe at Navadvip, Avatara, the incarnation, Simhagriva, having the neck of a lion, Simhavirya, the strength of a lion, Simhera Umkar, the roar of a lion. Translation. Thus the lion-like Lord Chaitanya has appeared in Navadvip. He has the shoulders of a lion, the powers of a lion, and the loud voice of a lion. Text 31. Se simha vasuk jivira ridaya kandari kalmashadviradhanashe yamharohum kari. Say that simha, lion, vasuk, let him sit, jivera, of the living entities, hridaya, of the heart, kandare, in the cavern, kalmasha, of sins, dvirada, the elephant, nashe, destroy, yamhara, of whom, humkare, the roar. Translation. May that lion be seated in the core of the heart of every living being. Thus, with his resounding roar, may he drive away one's elephantine vices. Text 32. Pratama lilayatam dravishwambaranam bhaktirase bharila dharila bhutagram. Pratama, first. Lilaya, in the pastimes. Tanra, of him. Vishwambharanama, of the name Vishwambara. Bhaktirase, with the mellow of devotional service. Bharila, he filled. Dharila, saved. Bhutagrama, all the living entities. Translation. In his early pastimes, he is known as Vishwambara because he floods the world with the nectar of devotion and thus saves the living beings. Text 33. Dhubrindaturartha poshandaran pushila darila prema diya tribhuvan. Dubrin, known as Dubrin, Datura, of the verbal root, Artha, the meaning, Poshana, nourishing, Dharana, maintaining, Pushila, nourished, Darila, maintain, Premadiya, distributing love of God, Tribhuvana, in the three worlds. Translation. The verbal root Dubrin, which is the root of the word Vishwambhara, indicates nourishing and maintaining. He, Lord Chaitanya, nourishes and maintains the three worlds by distributing love of God. Text 34. We will read this text in a purport and then we will open up some discussion. Sheshalilaya dhare nama Sri Krishna Chaitanya Sri Krishna Jana Yesaba Vishwa Kaila Dhanya. Sheshalilaya, in his final pastimes, dhare, he held, nama, the name, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Sri Krishna, about Lord Krishna, Janaye, he taught, Saba, all, Vishwa, the world, Kaila, made, Danya, fortunate. Translation. In his later pastimes, he is known as Lord Sri Krishna Chaitanya. He blesses the whole world by teaching about the name and fame of Lord Sri Krishna. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Lord Chaitanya remained a householder only until his 24th year had passed. Then he entered the renounce order and remained manifest in this material world until his 48th year. Therefore, Sheshalila, or the final portion of his activities, lasted 24 years. Some so-called Vaishnavas say that the renounce order of life is not accepted in the Vaishnava Sampradaya or disciplic succession from Lord Chaitanya. This is not a very intelligent proposition. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took the sannyas order from Sripad Keshav Bharati, who belonged to the Shankara sect, which approves of only 10 names for sannyasis. Long before the advent of Sripad Caitanya-caritāmṛta, however, the sannyas order existed in the Vaishnava line of Vishnu Swami. In the Vishnu Swami Vaishnava Sampradaya, there are 10 different kinds of sannyasa names and 108 different names for sannyasis who accept the Tridanda, the triple staff of sannyas. This is approved by the Vedic rules. Therefore, Vaishnava sannyas was existent even before the appearance of Shankaracharya, although those who know nothing about Vaishnava sannyas unnecessarily declare that there is no sannyas in the Vaishnava Sampradaya. During the time of Lord Chaitanya, the influence of Shankaracharya in society was very strong. People thought that one could accept sannyas only in the disciplic succession of Shankaracharya. Lord Chaitanya could have performed his missionary activities as a householder, but he found householder life an obstruction to his mission. Therefore, he decided to accept the renounce order sannyas. Since his acceptance of sannyas was also designed to attract public attention, Lord Chaitanya, not wishing to disturb the social convention, took the renounce order of life from a sannyasi in the disciplic succession of Shankaracharya, although sannyas was also sanctioned in the Vaishnava Sampradaya. In the Shankara Sampradaya, there are 10 different names awarded to sannyasis. 1. Tirtha. 2. Ashrama. 3. Vana. 4. Aranya. 5. Giri. 6. Parvata. 7. Sagara. 8. Saraswati. 9. Bharati. And 10. Puri. Before one enters sannyas, he has one of the various names for brahmachari, the assistant to a sannyasi. Sannyasis with the titles Tirtha and Ashrama generally stay at Dwarka, and their brahmachari name is Swarupa. Those known by the names Vana and Aranya stay at Purushottama or Jagannath Puri, and their brahmachari name is Prakasha. Those with the names Giri, Parvata, and Sagara generally stay at Badarik Ashram, and their brahmachari name is Ananda. Those with the title Saraswati, Bharati, and Puri usually live at Sringeri in South India, and their brahmachari name is Chaitanya. Sripada Shankaracharya established 4 monasteries in India in the 4 directions north, south, east, and west, and he entrusted them to 4 sannyasis who were his disciples. Now there are hundreds of branch monasteries under these 4 principal monasteries, and although there is an official symmetry among them, there are many differences in their dealings. The 4 different sects of these monasteries are known as Anandavara, Bhogavara, Kitavara, and Bhumivara. And in course of time, they have developed different ideas and different slogans. According to the regulation of the disciplic succession, one who wishes to enter the renounced order in Shankara sect must first be trained as a brahmachari under a bona fide sannyasi. The brahmachari's name is ascertained according to the group to which the sannyasi belonged. Lord Chaitanya accepted sannyas from Keshava Bharati. When he first approached Keshava Bharati, he was accepted as a brahmachari with the name Sri Krishna Chaitanya Brahmachari. After he took sannyas, he preferred to keep the name Krishna Chaitanya. The great authorities in the disciplic succession had not offered to explain why Lord Chaitanya refused to take the name Bharati after he took sannyas from a Bharati, until Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaja volunteered the explanation that because a sannyasi in the Shankara Sampradaya thinks that he has become the supreme, Lord Chaitanya, wanting to avoid such a misconception, kept the name Sri Krishna Chaitanya, placing himself as an eternal servitor. A brahmachari is supposed to serve the spiritual master. Therefore, he did not negate that relationship of servitude to his spiritual master. Accepting such a position is favorable for the relationship between the disciple and the spiritual master. The authentic biographies also mention that Lord Chaitanya accepted the danda, rod, and the begging pot, symbolic of the sannyas order, at the time he took sannyas. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Bhaktisiddhanta Shishyaya Bhaktivedanta Namine Prasannaya Prashantaya Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Bhagavad Vandanam Kadyam Guru Vandana Purvakam Kshiram Sharkara Yuktam Kadatehi Visheshataham Namo Mahabhadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvishe Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Rup Shri Sanatana Bhatta Raghunata Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunata Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Quite a bit of information by Srila Prabhupada about the advent of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We see in the pages of Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta that Srila Prabhupada is very nicely explaining all of the details of the appearance of the Yuga avatar, the incarnation for the age of Kali Yuga. Now, it is quite significant that we read a few classes behind of how Lord Krishna, the direct form of Lord Krishna, the original Adi Krishna, appears once only in the day of Lord Brahma. And there was a conversation with Srila Prabhupada where somebody asked Srila Prabhupada, well, what about Lord Chaitanya? Also, Prabhupada said, yes, only once in a day of Lord Brahma, which corresponds about 8 billion, so many 100 millions of years. I remember many years ago, one devotee sent me a little clip from a Vaishnava publication, how somebody in the society was advertising the long-awaited tape ministry. Somebody was trying to promote their classes and their explanation of Krishna consciousness. So they phrased it, the long-awaited tape ministry of such and such devotee. And somebody asked me what I thought. I said, well, we've been waiting for a long time for a person like Srila Prabhupada and Lord Chaitanya. That's 8 billion, so many hundreds and millions of years. So whatever we hear from Srila Prabhupada, that is very precious, very, very important, very significant, and very precious. There is a place in the Caitanya-caritāmṛta where Srila Prabhupada describes the meaning of the appearance of Adi Shankaracharya. Mayavadam asat shastram prachannam bodhamuchyate mayeva kalpitam devi kalo brahmana rupina. This is from the Padma Purana, a conversation between Lord Shiva and Parvati, his consort, where Lord Shiva is explaining, Kalo Brahmana Rupina, in the age of Kali, I will come in a form of a Brahmana. What will he do? Mayavadam asat shastram. This Mayavad, false scriptures, prachannam bodhamuchyate, to preach this quasi-Buddhist philosophy. Mayeva kalpitam Devi, my dear Devi, I will come in the form of a Brahmana. Shankaracharya was an empowered personality, like Lord Shiva, who came to drive the atheistic philosophy of Buddhism out of India. Because we all know from the poetry of Jayadev Goswami that Lord Buddha came to stop the unnecessary animal sacrifices that were going on under the name of Vedic following. So he went all over India, as Prabhupada has described. He established different monasteries, and he also preached. He defeated so many big scholars and big pundits and brought them. But the kind of preaching he was doing is described as prachanam bhaudapchan. It is like veiled Buddhism. It is denying the eternal existence, the personality of Godhead. That's why anybody who is familiar with Caitanya-caritāmṛta knows that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Maya said, Mayavada Bhashya Shunale Oi Sarvanash. If you listen to the commentary of the Mayavadis, your whole understanding is finished. Sarvanash. In another place in the Caitanya-caritāmṛta, Srila Prabhupada explains that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is described Mayavadi Oi Krishna Aparadi. That the Mayavadis, the impersonalists, are great offenders at the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. I was just having a discussion the other day with a devotee, a very friendly devotee. This devotee is a South Indian Brahmin, very educated, knows Sanskrit, and he chants Hare Krishna, follows the principles that Prabhupada has given. And he was trying to understand the history of the debates between the Madhvas, or the Madhva Sampradaya, and the Advaita Sampradaya. There's a long history. Anybody who knows Srila Prabhupada's purport in his Caitanya-caritāmṛta knows that Srila Prabhupada in one place has described that the arguments of Madhvacharya and Ramanujacharya are very strong, defeating the arguments of the impersonalist philosophers. There is one place where Srila Prabhupada explained they are Vedantis. Vedanta means, in one Sanskrit combination, is Veda Anta, the end of all knowledge. Another combination is Vedanta. Danta means teeth. Without teeth. Vedanta. That they're defeating the argument and breaking the teeth of the arguments of the Mayavadi philosophers. The entire Madhva Sampradaya is dedicated to that, the Ramanuja Sampradaya as well, to establish the supremacy of the personality of Godhead. Now, this is a very important point because all of our acharyas have fought for this. They have all fought to establish the personality of Krishna, the position of Krishna, to correctly interpret, to correctly present the meaning of the Vedic literatures. We see in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna is explaining, Vedescha sarver aham vidyaha. The study of the Vedas, I am to be known by the study of the Vedas. The purpose of the study of the Vedas is to know Krishna. So this is a very important point. Not this endless disputation of various Sanskrit meanings and speculation and word jugglery. That is simply nonsense. Anybody who knows the history of Shankaracharya knows. He wrote that song Bhaja Govindam, where he's explaining Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam mudhamate samprapte sannite dukrin karane. That stop your combination of so many grammatical Sanskrit explanations and worship Lord Govinda. Because the Mayavadis are very expert jnanis in study of Vedanta and all of these things. Unfortunately, they do not worship Govinda. Shankaracharya also wrote a hymn to Lord Narasimha called in Narasimha Karabalamba Stotram, where he is offering wonderful praises to Lord Narasimha. He also wrote an Ashtakam, eight verses in praise of Lord Jagannath. In one place, Prabhupada described that Shankaracharya was a Vaishnava in disguise. Unfortunately, his followers do not study, do not follow in his footsteps. We had an argument one time with a Mayavadi in South India. So Guru Kripa started the discussion. What is that tilak? They put this Bhasma tilak, this Shiva tilak on their head. He says, what is that tilak you're wearing there? Why you are wearing that tilak? The person was totally stunned. Because in India, they don't approach people like that aggressively. He said, you should be wearing this tilak, Urdhva Pundra. It's quite significant because in the Atharva Veda, there's a very nice quote. It says, Yo dharayati sa parasyo bhavati sa punyavan bhavati sa muktiman bhavati. That if you wear this tilak, you will become pious, you will become saintly, and you will become liberated. So Guru Kripa says, if I defeat you, and I will argue with you, I will defeat you, tomorrow you have to come here and put this tilak. So Guru Kripa, he started to give him verses from the Bhagavad Gita, the Bhagavatam, Krishna tu Bhagavan Swayam, Brahma Samhita. And then when the person tried to reply, Guru Kripa says, no, you don't understand. Look at the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, text 7. Matta parataramnaya. There is no truth superior to Krishna. And Guru Kripa said, do you understand that? You don't understand that? You know all Sanskrit? You've studied Sanskrit, spent years? It is very simple. He says, get all this nonsense world jugglery out of your head. And the person was so stunned at the way Guru Kripa was arguing with him. The next day, he did come back with Vaishnav Tilak. So we gave him a Bhagavad Gita. But it was very interesting. Of course, not every Mayavadi is quite as cooperative of that. Many of them are very, very, very deluded and very crazy. To come back to the original topic that I was discussing with that devotee in South India, there is a long history of the Madhvas, especially during the time of Lord Chaitanya. One of the acharyas in our disciplic succession named Vyasa Tirtha. His name is given in the list of the spiritual masters in the Bhagavad Gita. He was a very prolific writer who wrote a book called Nyaya Amrita. And this book, what he did with that, he took all the philosophical position of Shankaracharya and all the subsequent big pandits and acharyas in their sampradaya and showed all kinds of contradictions between their different positions. And this became a big attack on their system. Until many years later, there was a Bengali sannyasi named Madhusudana Saraswati, who was born in Bengal and he was educated in Benares. So he wrote a book attempting to refute Vyasatirtha called Advaita Siddhi, in which this was in the 1600s. There's some exact dates I have in my file, but the point is this Madhusudana Saraswati, this big Mayavadi, attempting to refute the arguments of this Vyasatirtha. So when the Madhvas heard that, they deputed 2 Sanskrit pandits from their sampradaya to disguise themselves just like Advaitins with the tilak, with the Shiva tilak. And every day they would go to this Madhusudana Saraswati to hear his version of the Advaita Siddhi. When they would come back at night, they would, because one of them was a Shrutidar. He could remember everything by hearing it once. So they were writing the refutation every night of what they heard from him. And at the end of their studies of this Advaita Siddhi, these 2 Vaishnava Pandits, followers of Madhva, they presented the refutation of this Advaita Siddhi to this Madhusudana Saraswati, who was furious, who tossed their book in the river somewhere, but they had made another copy. And this is then there was subsequent argument and refutations from some Mayavadis, and eventually the Madhvas deputed one devotee named Vanamali Mishra, who basically wrote a refutation of all the previous arguments of these different Advaitavadis and Mayavadis. So this is what Prabhupada was referring to when he says that the Madhvas and Ramanujas break the teeth, Vedanta, of the Mayavadi philosophers. In the Ramanuja Sampradaya, there was one big acharya named Vedanta Deshika. He wrote like 135 books or something, very powerful debater. He was like 125 years after Ramanuja. He wrote a book called Mayavada Shatadushani, 108 faults of the Mayavada philosophy. Very powerful arguments where he's systematically defeating all of their nonsense arguments. So this is very intricate and very detailed. And what it is that the Vaishnava philosophers have vastly written so many books. In our Sampradaya, we have Jiva Goswami, who although never wrote a book on Vedanta Sutra, he is also commented in his 6 Sandarbhas on many sutras of the Brahma Sutra, the Vedanta Sutra. And him and Sanatana Goswami, they've written extensive commentaries on Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the natural purport of the Vedanta Sutra. So this is the wealth of information that is given by Srila Prabhupada in his books, explaining all the intricacies of the Vaishnava philosophy and all the details to properly understand the position of Krishna and all the avatars. This is very precious, very, very precious. Nobody should misunderstand that Srila Prabhupada, like this propaganda that was done by some neo-mat sannyasi who traveled around ISKCON in 1990s, claiming that Swami Bhaktivedanta just taught the basic fundamentals and we are here to introduce you to the higher teaching, the rasic. This is simply a nonsense, offensive proposition. Prabhupada has given everything. The sadhana bhakti, the bhava bhakti, the prema bhakti, everything has been given there. Simply want us to become acquainted and submissively hear from His divine grace. I see that on this call here, just want to make a remark. There's Vijay Pandit Prabhu has beautiful deities behind his head on the wall. Shyamasundar Prabhu from Australia has a beautiful painting of Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda and Advaita chanting. I see that Balaram Prabhu also had a beautiful painting on the left side of his head of Srila Prabhupada, and there's a picture of Radha Krishna. There's a drawing of Srila Prabhupada. Now, this is very, very auspicious. This is the powerful influence of His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, that some way or other, he has connected us to Lord Krishna in his beautiful teachings. And this is very important, very important. We see that Srila Prabhupada, somebody today, I don't know if it was Jai Pandit from Italy, sent me a very short clip from a lecture of Srila Prabhupada, where Prabhupada was preaching to the inhabitants of Varanasi, Benares, when Lord Chaitanya went to visit Prakashananda Saraswati. And Prabhupada was explaining that in the Caitanya-caritāmṛta, he described that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was so powerful that he would get everybody, thousands, dozens of thousands of people to chant Hare Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada said one time that Lord Chaitanya, he also made a shortcut, that if you sing Haribol, Hari Hari, that is a shortcut for the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. And he was getting everybody to chant. So that is the power of a pure devotee, of an authorized, bona fide, empowered Acharya and pure devotee like Srila Prabhupada, who is following in the footsteps of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to introduce the Maha Mantra, to give that knowledge of the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and to give us that nectar that Lord Chaitanya has given. I was going to take a few minutes to read a few sections from a book that Bhaktivedanta Thakur compiled. It's called the Caitanya Upanishad, and he wrote a commentary called Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta. This Upanishad was published by the great pioneer of the Krishna Consciousness movement, Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur. The Thakur searched the length and breadth of Bengal to procure an original copy of the manuscript of this rare Upanishad, which describes the unique position and advent of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It also describes the glorious position and importance of the Maha Mantra, or the chanting of the divine name of Sri Krishna. He was finally provided a copy of the original handwritten manuscript from one Pandit, Madhusudana Maharav of Sambalapura. Upon the request of many Gaudiya Vaishnavas of the time, he wrote a lucid Sanskrit commentary called Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta, or the nectar of the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya. The first edition of this book was originally printed in Calcutta, Bengal, by the Sri Chaitanya Press in 1887. It is to be noted that the great Sampradaya-Acharya of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas and of the Krishna Consciousness movement is Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, as cited from this Upanishad in his Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta purport of Adi Lila 222, to explain the sacred divinity of Sriman Mahaprabhu. Quote, apart from the relevant evidence forwarded by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj, there are innumerable statements regarding Lord Chaitanya's being the Supreme Lord himself. The following examples may be cited. 1. From the Caitanya Upanishad, Ghoraha Saravatma Mahapurusho Mahatma Mahayogi Trigunatitaha Sattvarupo Bhaktim Loke Kasyati. Lord Gaura, who is the all-pervading Supersoul, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, appears as a great saint and powerful mystic who is above the three modes of nature and is the emblem of transcendental activity. It disseminates the cult of devotion throughout the world. The current English translation of this rare gem was done in 1977 in Vrindavana by a disciple His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. We'll read a few of these texts. Ata Pippaladaha Samir Panir Bhagavantam Brahmanomupasanno Bhagavan Meshubham Kimatra Chakshashviti. Thereafter, Pippalada, with sacrificial fuel in hand, approached Lord Brahma and said, "O my Lord, in this world, please tell me what is the real auspiciousness." Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta Bhashya, commentary of Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur, Panchatattvam vitam natva Caitanya rasa vigraham Caitanyopanishad bhashyam karumyatma vishuddhaye. After offering obeisances unto the Panchatattva, I am writing this commentary on the Caitanya-Upanishad, which is the form of the mellow of Lord Chaitanya for self-purification. This Caitanya-Upanishad, which is included within the eternal Atharva Veda, and which is full of bliss, has thus far not been manifest due to being beyond the vision of persons who have become blinded by the influence of the illusory energy and whose minds are directed towards external matters. Then, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the moon of Navadvip, appeared by the endeavor of the pure devotees, it became known. According to the authority of the Srimad Bhagavatam 7.9.38, even the Shastras are in a covered form concerning the Supreme Lord Sri Chaitanya, who is to be worshipped in Kali Yuga, or Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appears in a covered form according to the Shastras. Therefore, it is not surprising that due to misfortune, the fools who are engaged in karma and jnana have no faith in this connection. After examining many Shastras and performing much worship, Pippalada Muni, desiring his own welfare, approached the Guru, the four-faced Lord Brahma, with fuel in hand and asked, "What is best for me?" Text number 2. Sauvacha Bhuya eva tapasa brahmacharyena shashvatramasva manovaseti. Lord Brahma said, "Always be very pleased with only austerity, celibacy, and control of the mind." Bhaktivedanta Thakur's commentary. Lord Brahma said to him, after spending 1 year acting for the purification of mind and body, by pure behavior in renunciation, by celibacy, by yoga practice and austerity, come again. Text number 3. Satata bhutva bhuyayenam upasadhyaha bhagavan kalo papachannaha prajaha katam muchiraniti. Translation. He, Pippalada, becoming pure in mind, again approached his father and said, "O my Lord Brahma, in the age of Kali Yuga, people are covered due to sin. How can they obtain liberation?" Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta commentary. After practicing purification of the body and mind by celibacy and austerity, Pippalada again approached his guru and inquired, "In Kali Yuga, how can those who are sinful by nature obtain liberation from the material condition?" Text number 4. Kova devata kova mantra bruhiti. Translation. Please tell me which deity or which mantra is worthy of service. Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta commentary. O my Lord, for the living beings whose minds are contaminated by Kali Yuga, please tell me which deity of which mantra should be served. Text number 5. Rahasyam te vadishyami janavitire navadvipe golokake damni govinda dvibuja gorah saravatma mahapurusho mahatma mahayogi trigunatitaha satvarupa bhaktim loke kasyatiti tadete shloka bhavanti. Translation. Lord Brahma replied, "I will tell you the confidential truth. On the bank of the Janavi, in Navadvip Dham, which is known as Goloka, Govinda with 2 arms, golden complexion, the super soul, the greatest personality, the greatest yogi, the supreme being, who is transcendental to the modes of nature, and whose form is truth, will appear to manifest devotional service, bhakti in this world. These verses describe that. Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta commentary. In the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 11.5, 33, 34, the state of being of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Chaitanya, the Savior of Kali Yuga, is proven. Dhyayam sadaparibhavagyam abhishtadoham tirtashpadam shivavirinchinutam sharanyam brityartaham pranatapalabhavad bipotam vande mahapurushate charanarabindam. O Supreme Person, O Protector of the devotees, I offer my respectful obeisances unto your lotus feet, which are worthy of being constantly meditated upon, which destroys misery, yield all desire, which are the abode of all holy places of pilgrimage, which are praised by Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, which are the shelter of all, which dispel the distress of the devotees, in which are a boat for crossing over the ocean of material existence. Tyaktva sudustyajya suripshita raja lakshmim dharmishta aryavachasa yadagararanyam maya mrigam dayitaipshitam anvadavad vande mahapurushate charanarabindam. We offer our respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of the Lord, upon whom one should always meditate. He left his householder life, leaving aside his eternal consort, whom even the denizens of heaven adore. He went into the forest to deliver the fallen souls who are put into illusion by the material energy. Text number 6. Eko devaha sarvarupi mahana magora rakta shyamala shveta rupaha Chaitanyatma Sabachetanya Shabdir Bhaktakara Bhaktido Bhaktividyaha. Translation. The one Supreme Personality of Godhead, who appears in a variety of transcendental forms, is also known as Gaura. He has also appeared in various complexions such as red, blackish, and white. He shall appear in the form of Gaura. He himself is Chaitanya, the embodiment of Chit Shakti. He shall appear in the form of a devotee to bestow devotional service to the Lord, and is also to be known by devotional service. Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta commentary. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 10.8.13, the Lord's characteristics are described by Garga Muni. Shuto raktastatapita idanim krishnatam gataha. He has been white, red, and yellow. And now, hold on here. And now in Dwapara Yuga, he is blackish. In Kali Yuga, he takes the form of a devotee. The confidential truth is that the Lord has descended with his own abode, Goloka Dhamma, to the supremely sanctified land of Gauda, in the form of a devotee as Sri Krishna Chaitanya himself. In desiring to deliver love of God, he has exposed the transcendental secret of Madhura Rasa, which enlivens all the devotees in the material world, headed by Shatakopa, Ramanuja, Vishnu Swami, Madhvacharya, Nimbarka, etc., for the purpose of quickly bestowing auspiciousness unto the living beings in Kali Yuga. Bhaktivedanta means that the living entities can know the Lord by the practice of devotional service and not by the practice of dry philosophical speculation. So we'll leave it at that, and we'll continue from text number 7 at some other time. We hope everybody likes these readings, especially about the exalted qualifications and transcendental nature of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, for that explanation from the Caitanya-caritāmṛta, an elaborate, detailed explanation. And I wanted to comment that the Mayavadi philosophy, Prabhupada described it as spiritual suicide. And this Mayavadi philosophy is the last snare of nescience. It's a very unfortunate situation when people that study the Vedic scriptures start to believe that they are God, which is the basic essence of their teaching, that all the particles of water are equal qualitatively, and therefore the part is equal to the whole. This is their understanding of this philosophy. And this is a great, unfortunate situation for people that are trying to become self-realized in this age. And people that preach the Mayavadi philosophy are also very deviant in what they're doing based on false ego. Because our philosophy is based on this simple principle, Jivera Swarupa Hoy, Krishnera Nitya Dāsa. And this puts position of servants of Krishna. Much different than becoming God, you are a servant of God. And in our particular case, we're also the servants of Srila Prabhupada, who is the servant of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this is in real time very valuable. I was mentioning the other day to one of my colleagues who is a PhD philosopher from UCLA. And I was telling him, well, we're more valuable than these ancient or old philosophers like Plato and Aristotle, Nietzsche, etc. He goes, well, what do you mean? I said, because we're alive. We're still active in this material world. And if you're acting on the platform of devotional service under the direction of a pure devotee, like A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, and all of us may not feel very qualified to take this position, but there is a great urgency for us to bring forward the true teachings of Lord Chaitanya through the guidance of our spiritual master, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda. It is very important service. This is not just an intellectual meeting of God brothers for the sake of personal benefit, but it's an opportunity for us to get the realization who we are, what is our goal, because we're still active members of Srila Prabhupada's mission. One who takes up the service of Lord Chaitanya under direction has returned to his constitutional position. This is very important. Like a fish out of water cannot survive. So for us, if we're not situated on the platform of devotional service under the guidance of the spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, we're not in our constitutional position. Those who serve Maya are like fish out of water. They cannot survive. And in the same way, those that are not connected to the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya through Srila Prabhupada are like fish out of water. Let's refer to the Srimad Bhagavatam, for a further understanding of our constitutional position. I'll just read this quickly and then we'll carry on. This is from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, 26th chapter, 3rd canto, 26th chapter, verse 2, translation and purport. Knowledge is the ultimate perfection of self-realization. I'll explain that knowledge unto you by which the knots of attachment to the material world are cut. It is said that by proper understanding of the pure self, or by self-realization, one can be freed from material attachment. Knowledge leads one to attain the ultimate perfection of life and to see oneself as he is. The Svetashwara Upanishad also confirms this. Tam eva vidi tatvati mricham iti. Simply by understanding one's spiritual position, or by one seeing oneself as he is, one can be freed from material entanglement. In various ways, the seeing of oneself is described in the Vedic literatures, and it is confirmed in the Bhagavatam, Purushasya Atma Darshanam, that one has to see oneself and know what he is. As Kapila Dev explains to his mother, this seeing can be done by hearing from the proper authoritative source. Kapila Dev is the greatest authority because he is the personality of Godhead. And if someone accepts whatever is explained as it is, without interpretation, then he can see himself. Lord Chaitanya explained to Sanatana Goswami the real constitutional position of the individual. He said directly that each and every individual is eternally a servitor of Krishna. Jivera Swarup Ahoy Krishnera Nitya Dasa. It's from the Madhya Lila 20:108, chapter 20, verse 108. Every individual soul is eternally a servant, a servitor. When one is fixed in the understanding that he is the part and parcel of the Supreme Soul, that his eternal position is to serve in association with the Supreme Lord, he becomes self-realized. This position of rightly understanding oneself cuts the knot of material attraction. Hridaya Granti Bedhatnam, due to false ego or false identification of oneself with the body and the material world, one is entrapped by Maya. But as soon as one understands that he is qualitatively the same substance as the Supreme Lord, because he belongs to the same category of spirit soul, and thus his perpetual position is to serve, one attains Atma Darshanam, Hridaya Granti Bedanam, self-realization. When one can cut the knot of attachment to the material world, his understanding is called knowledge. Atma Darshana means to see oneself by knowledge. Therefore, when one is freed from the false ego by the false identity of the body and the mind, this bag of pus, stool, and urine, by the cultivation of real knowledge, he sees himself, and that is the ultimate necessity of human life. The soul is thus isolated from the entanglement of the 24 categories of material nature pursuant of the systematic philosophical process called Sankhya, is called knowledge and self-realization. So, very profound purport and a proper understanding of who we are. We are not sannyasis. We are not grihastas. We are not brahmacharis. We are the eternal servants of Krishna. And this is something that all of the devotees of Srila Prabhupada in his early years understood as the reality of the business of the Sankirtan movement. Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, if you could further comment.
Well, this is a very important point, because unless somebody understands this fundamental point of the position that one is not the body, aham brahmasmi, where's the question of making spiritual advancement? Otherwise, one gets caught up in a false ego. I remember one devotee telling me during the days of the zonal Acharya system, and he raised the argument with me. He says, what is this idea of a zonal Acharya? Did Rupa Goswami ever claim that this temple is my zone and you, Gopal Bhatt and Sanatan, cannot come here? Did Sanatan Goswami, when he established the Madan Mohan temple, claim this is my personal property? The devotee said this seems to be the characteristics of a deluded illusion person who still thinks like a materialistic person, that this is my property, my money, my this, my that. I mean, we are being taught right from the beginning of Krishna consciousness that everything belongs to Krishna. We are the eternal servitor of Krishna, just like Vishwakarma just quoted from the Caitanya-caritāmṛta, Nitya Krishna Das, where this is our position. We are the eternal servant of Krishna. And if somebody forgets that for whatever reason, or falls under the influence of Maya, then there's all kinds of upadhis or concoctions that comes up. People think I'm a big devotee, I'm a senior devotee, I'm a popular devotee, this belongs to me, this is my temple, my this, my zone, my that. This is all nonsense. We have all heard Prabhupada quoting the famous verse from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Gopi Bhartuhu Padaka Malayor Dasa Dasa Anudasaha. All the great Vaishnavacharyas have exhibited this amazing quality of humility, and coming back always to this point that we are simply a small speck. We are eternal servants of Krishna. Brahmananda Swami one time told me a story. You went to Srila Prabhupada and asked him, Prabhupada, it seems very difficult in the material world to be humble because everybody thinks very highly of themselves. So Prabhupada told him, actually, it is very easy to understand this. You have to understand what you really are. What you are is 1/10,000 of the tip of a hair. That is the size of what you are. You are a spirit soul. But under the influence of Maya, you're thinking something else. You're American, Indian, man, white, black, blue, rich, poor. You're Russian, Mongolian, Polish, American, Canadian, Indian. This is all designation. Says you have to remember constantly, you are simply 1/10,000, the tip of the hair. That is the size of the spirit soul. And once we understand this and remember this, our path to spiritual advancement is open. Then we can march forward nicely.
Excellent. I wanted to ask our godbrother in Australia, who is able to attend the reading and discussion, Balaram Prabhu, on his understanding of the mission of Prabhupada to destroy the Mayavadi philosophy, because we do recite that every day, that it was his mission, and how serious this confusion is in all religions, like in the Catholic Church and other groups, that they believe that God is light. He's just a white light, and we're all parts and parcels, and we're ultimately God. How did Prabhupada preach to all of you in Australia back in those days about the Mayavadi philosophy and how serious it was?
Yeah. Nivishesha Sunyavadi Paschata Desatarane. Srila Prabhupada came to fulfill the mission of Lord Chaitanya as enunciated by Srila Rupa Goswami, And that was, we see that this impersonalism and voidism, it spread so widely through the world, especially these days. Even back in the time of our forefathers, material forefathers, there seemed to be a much more God consciousness in the world. You know, people had, they seemed to be somehow or other more theistic in their nature. And we see today it's just an atheistic society. I was reading in one purport of Srila Prabhupada just recently in the 10th canto, and it said anyone that's not following the Varnashram or the Vedic principles, Sareva Gokara, they're no better than an animal. So Prabhupada spoke very, very strongly on these points. As far as the Mayavad, I was just I was having a little laugh at when Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu was mentioning Guru Kripa when he confronted the Mayavad over there in India. And I would say that he was a very fortunate Mayavadi to be confronted by Guru Kripa. And although there were many others that, as Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu said, well, there are others, of course, they didn't accept. All I can say is they hadn't been confronted by Guru Kripa Swami. they might have had the same reaction. So, but this tilak, actually this morning, in reading Srimad Bhagavatam 10th canto, I think it's in the third chapter, where the killing of Putana, and Srila Prabhupada explains very nicely there how all the mothers, the Matajis, they all took such care of the children by bathing them and applying tilak for the protection. And Prabhupada in the purport explains all the names of so many witches. I mean, you know, Putana, she was a great witch, but Prabhupada there explains all of the various categories of witches, the demons that were appearing, and the importance of putting on tilak. So these are the instructions that Srila Prabhupada has given us. You know, we should, sometimes it may not be appropriate to wear tilak, you know, in different circumstances, but one should always, I was always shown at the start, if that is possible, maybe always do the full 12 mantras with water tilak. You know, that's something that you can do if it's maybe not appropriate to be wearing full tilak. But there was one, if I could just read about the importance of tilak. This is from 10th canto, chapter 6, text number 30. And Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport, while decorating the body with tilak, we give protection to the body by chanting 12 names of Vishnu. Although Govinda, or Lord Vishnu, is one, he has different names and forms with which to act differently. But if one cannot remember all the names at one time, one may simply chant Lord Vishnu, Lord Vishnu, Lord Vishnu, and always think of Lord Vishnu. Vishnur Aradhanam Param. This is the highest form of worship. If one remembers Vishnu always, even though one is disturbed by many bad elements, one can be protected without a doubt. The Ayurveda Shastra recommends Ashode Chintayet Vishnum. Even while taking medicine, one should remember Vishnu, because the medicine is not all in all, and Lord Vishnu is the real protector. The material world is full of danger, padam padam jadvi padam. Therefore, one must become a Vaishnav and think of Vishnu constantly. This is made easier by the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Therefore, Caitanya Mahaprabhu has recommended Caitanya-caritāmṛta param vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam and Kirtanareva Krishna Mukta Sangha param vrajet. So this is the essence of Srila Prabhupada's teaching to us. He's conveying the mission of Lord Chaitanya, and that is the only savior for the fallen generations in this Kali Yuga. I mean, we're very fortunate that somehow or other, Prabhupada said, I think you mentioned, Vishwakarma Prabhu, one time when if one can chant, get the kartals to ring, it means they've done it in a previous lifetime. So somehow or other, maybe we did some little service, or we were fortunate to, do something for a devotee in the past. But somehow or other, Bhagavanaji, fortunate living entity, we've come in contact with Srila Prabhupada. And even though there are so many disturbances and so many people have, let's say, gone off the rails a little bit in terms of what Prabhupada presented, we have to bring them back. We have to make ourselves strong and preach accordingly. So Srila Prabhupada, he traveled to Australia probably 5 or 6 times. I haven't got the exact count. I think 1969, and his last visit was in 1976. Before Srila Prabhupada's departed his Vapi presence in 1977. So Prabhupada left a great legacy for us here, and a few of us are trying to resurrect that. That's all we can say. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, for such a wonderful discourse, and thank you for the association of the devotees. Hare Krishna.
Excellent. Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, I see we have a question here on the chat from Vinkat in South India. Can you read it?
It says, from text 36, is it correct to say that Lord Chaitanya took sannyas from a Shankara Sampradaya because generally at that time the perception was Vaishnava Sampradayas did not have sannyas? And to make it acceptable for more people, he took sannyas in this way. Yeah, to a certain extent, it's like that. I mean, Lord Chaitanya did not want to disturb the social position of people at the time, because that was the generally accepted position, to take sannyas from somebody in the Shankara Sampradaya. But we see that Lord Chaitanya retained his brahmachari name. And Prabhupada gave the explanation from his Guru Maharaj, saying, he volunteered the explanation that because a sannyasi in the Shankara Sampradaya thinks that he has become the supreme, Lord Chaitanya, wanting to avoid such a misconception, kept the name Sri Krishna Chaitanya, placing himself as an eternal servitor. So this is basically Srila Prabhupada's explanation in text number 34 on page 183. I mean, Prabhupada said, Lord Chaitanya, not wishing to disturb the social convention, took the renounced order of life from a sannyasi in the disciplic succession of Shankara-Ācārya. Although sannyas was also sanctioned in the Vaishnava Sampradaya. So, I mean, this is one of the reasons why the influence of Adi Shankara-Ācārya is so pervasive in India, because of his constant traveling and debating with so many pandits. It was everywhere. So by the time Ramanuja and Yamunacharya appeared, there was a lot of preaching to be done to undo a lot of the damage. And by the time Madhvacharya came, he also went forward and pushed the Vaishnava movement forward. So these are very important historical points. I see that one Shyamasundar Prabhu in Australia has his hands up. Hare Krishna.
Oh, Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for the wonderful class and explanation, and obeisances to all Vaishnavas. Prabhu, just a short question. I may have misunderstood, but at the very first verse, it mentions the duration of Kali Yuga was 36,000 solar years. So I may have misunderstood. But I was just wondering, because we're taught that it's 432,000 years. So I was just wondering what 36,000 solar years. Is it a different time calculation, or did I misunderstand the?
No. This refers to what is called the Pratama Sandhya. In text number 29, the purport, it refers to the first section of the Kali Yuga called the Pratama Sandhya. In Sanskrit, Pratama means first or beginning. That is the point, that there is a 36,000 year portion in the beginning of Kali Yuga called the Pratama Sandhya. That is not a description of the entire length of the Kali Yuga. The Kali Yuga lasts for 432,000 years. What is describing here, according to the Surya Siddhanta, is just basically the beginning portion. There's an interesting story in the Madhva Sampradaya, how the brother of Ananda Tirtha Madhvacharya, his name was Vishnu Tirtha. Vishnu Tirtha, according to the authorities in their Sampradaya, is still living in the mountains southeast of Mangalore, southeast of Udupi. They're called the Subramanya Mountains. And it is said that he's going to live for 30,000 years. And at that point, when the influence of Kali Yuga will be very strong, he has all of Madhvacharya's teachings, his brother, on copper plates, and he'll come out and spread it again. It's one of stories that they say. So there is some meaning to this 30 or 36,000 years. I hope it helps.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Nice picture behind you, though. Very inspiring to see. It's like I look
Excellent.
at Balaram's picture behind his head. I look at the picture behind your head, and I feel, wow, this is very sweet. Very sweet. Balaram has got two beautiful pictures of Prabhupada. The one is a drawing. There's a little piece of furniture, and there's a drawing of Srila Prabhupada there in contemplation or something. Very, very nice. Very nice.
They're both drawings, Prabhu.
Oh, very nice.
The top one was done by Shamananda Prabhu. Prabhupada gave him some mercy, and when we opened the Melbourne Temple, that's one of the depictions of the prayers to the spiritual master, and it's on the wall in Srila Prabhupada's room in Melbourne. So that's a copy of the hand sketching of Srila Prabhupada that he did.
Wow. Nice. Very nice.
Excellent. We have with us our godbrother Jonas Priya in Hawaii, and I wanted him to comment, if he could, on today's discussion. Prabhu, are you there?
Haribol, Jai Srila Prabhupada, all glories to the Vaishnavas. I'm still thinking of the story of Yasoda-nandana Prabhu was telling in South India, discussing with the pundits, and I love those stories. That's, to me, they're so entertaining. And you got so much info. We need to record Yasoda-nanda's Prabhu's all his stories, because they all have so much meaning. And anyhow, yeah, these Mayavadis, Bhaktisiddhanta couldn't take sannyas from anybody in our lineage. Why? Because they were all Babajis. Bhaktivedanta Thakur Babaji and so on. So that's what he gave himself, sannyas. And I guess everybody knows that pretty much. That's common knowledge. So after that, then we have sannyasis, but in our lineage, there's no sannyas, as you read, I think. And Srila Prabhupada's mission first was to establish his books as the greatest treasure ever gifted to this planet. And the second one was to defeat all the rascals, Mayavadis, scientists, anybody that was just cheating. So we were very fortunate, and we could see that Madhvacharya did this. He was very heavy with the Mayavadis, and that should be our not our focus point, but Prabhupada never misused a chance to chastise Mayavadis or cheaters. He always took the opportunity. And famous quote, kick him on the face with a nice soft tennis? No, with boot. Like I always think of army boot, kick him on the face with boot. He said that in Vancouver, 1972. This character, not Maharishi, but Maharshi, he was in Vancouver and he was having a Rasa Lila, and Prabhupada was in Seattle, I think. And they told Prabhupada about it. And Prabhupada said, somebody should actually go there and kick him on the face. So he was serious. He wasn't just saying that. He meant it. Prabhupada meant business as far as Mayavadis. So that's my contribution, and I thank everybody, especially Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu. I really appreciate. To me, everything comes out of your mouth is gospel. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And the assembly of devotees does thank you as well. And I wanted to read here what Yaśodā has posted. During the time of Lord Chaitanya, the influence of Shankaracharya in society was very strong. People thought that one could accept sannyas only in the disciplic succession of Shankaracharya. Lord Chaitanya could have performed his missionary activities as a household, but he found householder life as an obstruction to his mission. Therefore, he decided to accept the renounced order sannyas, since the acceptance of sannyas was also designed to attract public attention. Lord Chaitanya was not, let's see if I can get this to work. Maybe you can, sorry everyone, I'm fumbling like I can't get my thing. Yaśodā, could you continue? Oh, here we got it. Although sannyas was sanctioned in the Vaishnava Sampradaya, the great authorities in the disciplic succession had not offered to explain why Lord Chaitanya refused to take the name Bharati after he took sannyas from a Bharati until Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj volunteered the explanation that because the sannyasi in the Shankar Sampradaya thinks that he has become the Supreme Lord, Lord Chaitanya, wanting to avoid such a misconception, kept the name of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, placing himself as, let's see if I can get this again. Can you finish reading that for us, Yaśodā? Such a mission kept the name of Krishna Chaitanya, placing himself as a, I'm just having trouble scrolling. Oh, got it. Therefore, he did not negate the relationship of servitude to his spiritual master. Accepting such a position is favorable for the relationship between the disciple and the spiritual master. The authentic biographies also mention that Lord Chaitanya accepted the danda rod and begging pot, symbolic of the sannyas order, at the time he took sannyas. So many explanations today and insights from the group of Prabhupada disciples. That's the purpose of this association. We're almost at 10,000 participants. They're not active in the same way that all of us are, but it's good to see that people are coming forward in the different medias to hear the truth about the position of Srila Prabhupada as the bona fide and authorized representative of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I want to thank everyone for attending today, this class. It was very enlightening and enlivening. And we'll be returning on Saturday morning for Bhagavad Gita class at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time here in Eastern Canada in the United States. So you have to check your time zones and see if you can participate. And if not, you can visit our channel, the Krishna Consciousness Movement video channel. We'll be adding kirtans and japa of Srila Prabhupada and other transcendental items as we move forward in this year 2023. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Please, could you play the kirtan for us from the 60s, chant along, and enjoy the association of Srila Prabhupada in the holy name. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivāsadi Gaur-bhakta-vrinda Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivāsadi Gaur-bhakta-vrinda Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivāsadi Gaur-bhakta-vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Let us offer our respect.
Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, everyone. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. See you on Saturday morning.
Jai Srila Prabhupada.